A Bloomberg terminal costs you $30,000 a year, and it requires a steep learning curve for using it. What if you could get Bloomberg-quality data and insights, but without the learning curve and at a fraction of the cost? That's the goal of Jens Nordvig, the founder of MarketReader. My name is Sven Lorenz, and I'm the author of undervaluedshares.com. What I just described to you obviously sounds almost too good to be true. However, I've learned that when Jens speaks, it's really worthwhile to listen. He had pointed towards the novel coronavirus as a market driver 2 months before it became major news. Jens used to be a senior strategist at firms like Goldman Sachs, Nomura, and Bridgewater. He published a book, he won multiple awards. And in 2015, he set up his own research firm, Exante Data, where he quite quickly won half of the world's top 100 institutional money managers as a client. His latest brainchild and venture is MarketReader. It's a tool that tells you in real time what is happening in markets. And it does that across asset classes, equities, bonds, currencies, you name it. I had a chance to sit down with Jens in New York and speak to him about why this tool is so valuable for investors, small and large, and also how AI is changing how we consume financial news and how we analyze investments. Jens, it's great to see you again. I've known you for over 20 years. We don't get to meet often enough. I'm in New York with you, which is your chosen home since
2004, almost 20 years, okay. Right? So when we were in London, it was more than 20 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. We obviously haven't changed. No one ever gets older. And we've come together to speak about a very exciting new project, which I've known about almost since inception. When I visited you last time, slightly sort of outside of New York where you live, you were just in the process of setting up MarketReader as a new venture. That was 2.5 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And I wrote about it on my blog, undervaluedshares.com at the time. I think I was one of the first people to write about it.
Yeah.
And it's come a long way since then, and I've followed it at every step of the way, really. And I thought now is a great time to report about it again.
Yeah.
And I will cover in my questions to you at a later stage why I think now is the perfect timing to speak about it. But first, as an introduction, MarketReader. So what is it? Why is it relevant to investors, small and large? What can it do for people? Give us the download and the pitch.
The concept behind MarketReader is very simple. We just want to explain in an objective, precise way what's going on in the market. So the concept is simple, right? But doing it is not so simple because the market is complicated, right? So there's no simple technology can do it. Like lots of people have tried to do it before. But the approach we've taken is that we've built a lot of quant models that really helps guide the process, get to the right conclusion. And then with the latest AI technology, we can put the conclusion in a simple piece of text. You don't need to know about all the models that are involved to generate the result, but you can get the gist of it. And in that process, you weed out an incredible amount of information, all that background noise that can take, hours, days, weeks to sift through, we have done. And once you have done it in a piece of software, you can do it at scale. You can do it for thousands of assets at the same time, right? And it really generates a type of insight that you can't generate as a human, right? So we want to make it easy to understand for a human, right? But it can do it at a scale where one person certainly can't do it alone.
See, and I just have to say, I'm still somewhat skeptical, being a bit of a Luddite. Markets and the entire world is just so complex. How could a computer ever possibly get to a point where it can, as you just put it, create an objective, automated explanation of what's happening? But obviously AI is helping, and I think that's probably changed the equation in the last 12, 18 months especially. Just how do you do it, and how does this work?
So I'll be honest with you, it's not a simple system. We've been cranking for 2 years, as you said, and putting all the models together, right? And then the final sort of icing on the cake is that we have the AI layer that summarizes all that quant material, put all the different dimensions of analysis together. There's 4 types of analysis that we do in order to get good results. It is anything to do with news, social media will be captured in the system, right? But that's just one dimension. Then there's all the stuff that is on the calendar, anything that gets repeated, earnings release, CPI release, and so forth, we analyze that as well. Then there's anything to do with flows, volume, like the more technical things in the market, we analyze that as well. And finally, we analyze all assets together. We know how different assets interact with each other. Very hard to do that for thousands of assets if you're a human, but we can do that. Those dimensions together is the sort of secret sauce where we can really embrace the complexity and then put the final conclusion in a simple way in front of you.
There was one particular moment in the genesis of MarketReader that captured my imagination and convinced me that there was really something to it, and that was it spring 23 when Silicon Valley Bank went bust?
Yeah.
And MarketReader indicated with 2 days lead time that something was happening, or you had it on your radar 2 days before it entered receivership.
Maybe I had the same experience as you, because that was literally when I started to use the platform myself for the first time. Literally that spring, a year ago. And what MarketReader does is, because it scans so many assets at the same time, it always kind of finds, the epicenter of the earthquake, right? And March 2023, it was certainly Silicon Valley Bank, right? And it popped up on the screen, okay, this is the most volatile thing in the market. And you can see immediately it was spreading to First Republic. And it took the market 2 days before it totally caught on to it.
And social media played a significant role in that, I understand. Like, MarketReader can distinguish between a tweet that's relevant and important and one that's not. Is that how it works in layman's terms?
So social media can certainly be important, and we ingest incredible amount of social media content, right, and try to get rid of all the noise, all the stuff with emojis and rocket ships and all that kind of stuff. Get rid of that, right? But I think the key thing is that, can we explain everything with social media? No. So it's really like having that multi-dimensional approach where you squeeze as much juice out of social media you can, but then say, okay, we have all the other dimensions as well. Because if you try to put too much weight on one dimension, you're going to end up with not that great results, right? So it's really that multi-dimensionality that's key to the results quality.
And this is something that I get because, being a bit of a Luddite, as I said, I'm quite old-fashioned. I manually check all sorts of sources on the web for relevant information, also because I use quite arcane resources occasionally. Yeah. And it makes intuitive sense to me that if I have a system that has the computational power and the, for lack of a better word, a software backbone that knows how to amalgamate all this information in a way that is in tune with what I'm looking for as an investor, that is incredibly valuable. And that's what you're now offering with MarketReader as a product to which you can subscribe, right?
Yeah, so there's two ways that we can sell MarketReader. So we can sell the MarketReader platform, it's in the background there, right? Where an individual user can go in and understand what's going on in the market quicker than before. They can have their own watch list where they have certain things that they care about and get really good information about that in a very timely way. We can also deliver our feed. All the content could also be delivered to a trading platform, right? This is a trading platform that want to have an upgrade from, dumb news, like traditional news that is not very insightful, can be relevant, not relevant. They can also ingest like parts of this feed, right? So there's two ways that we can sell this, and we want to do both.
So I would imagine that quite a few people who see our interview or read it will recognize you from other work that you've done before, because you've been running Exante Data, your research firm, where besides Silicon Valley Bank, one of the other really memorable instances where sort of everyone suddenly read your work was when you pointed towards the new corona or the novel coronavirus as a potential market driver. And I remember vividly back in those days in early 2020, reading your Twitter feed, which is quite widely followed, and you were visibly crunching enormous amounts of data, which is what Exante was always doing, bringing data together and then doing your magic sauce thing with it. Would it be fair to say that in a way this has uniquely prepared you for what you're doing with MarketReader now? Just simply that instead of advising multi-billion hedge fund managers, you're now also making this available to an everyday investor because it's a readily available product on the internet.
Yeah, so I definitely like to analyze data. Like lots of people have opinions about things, right? So I like to have a data-driven approach. And yeah, the first company I founded, Exante Data, like really grew incredibly in 2020 because we had a process where we could forecast COVID pretty precisely. And early on in the pandemic, people thought that the epidemiologists were forecasters. They didn't know that they were just always forecasting the worst case scenario. They thought it was actually a forecast, right? So there was like a window where you can say, if you could actually do a precise neutral forecast, you could really beat market dynamics. So it was very interesting. And it took quite some time before the market caught onto it. Like obviously when we had the first case in the United States and New York totally shut down, like nobody had really thought about it and the market just totally tanked. So that was very interesting. In terms of the background for MarketReader, and the reason why I felt that I had to do a second company was that I've spent, a couple of decades helping institutional investors around the world, being employed by institutional investors, and I thought it would be really fun to do something that was for a much bigger audience. So rather than, 100 hedge funds or 200 institutional investors, I thought it would be fun to do something for 100 million people, right? Something for a big audience. And you can look at different ways, but there's about 400 to 500 million people in the world that are trading in some form, whether it's stocks, cryptocurrencies, like on their own, right? So not all portfolios are the same size, right? But there's a lot of people interested in the market, and they all fundamentally have the same kind of desire to understand what's going on, right? If you're making money, losing money, you need to know why. And that's what we're trying to do on scale.
I would definitely question your figure of 400 to 500 million investors around the world. I'd say it's at least 1 billion by now. There is so much interest, especially thanks to crypto, whatever you think of it, a lot of people have started to invest in some shape.
Yeah, I'm glad you're questioning in that direction.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really worthwhile me pointing it out because you're probably way too modest for it. And the marketing for Exante Data has always been very much based around you just know people, so you haven't been out there marketing yourself. It's fair to say that some hedge fund managers or institutional investors pay you a 6-figure amount per year to pick your brain. So for you to now make your expertise available to what is essentially the retail market as well, with a subscription that costs something like, I think, $100 a month, that's quite a change in direction, but it's also helping to democratize investing. So you're doing a great service literally to the investing world, and you're doing that building on the foundation of some extraordinary experience you made in a very, very different part of the
the way I would like to think about that, right, is that the structure that we've put together for this piece of software is in a way similar to the human structure that has been in place at a trading desk at a top hedge fund, right? When the market is moving and the big portfolio manager comes down on the trading desk and asks what's going on, right? They would have gone through a process trying to crunch, the flow data, speak to people at the broker dealers, what's going on, looking at the news, looking at the calendar, thinking about how different things are. They would have gone as humans through that process. And what we're doing is really to put all of that into an algorithm and a system that does it automatically on a massive scale. And then because of the new technology that's available in the AI space, not only can we actually achieve it, but we can also put the content in front of you in a way that's very digestible.
If even I can do it, then I think everyone can do it.
But it's just incredible the amount of complex analysis you can do in the background, right? And then put a simple piece of text in front of people. That's where the revolution is, right? We started building this army of models before the AI technology was really fully available, right? And then we put that layer on top. And I think this is also why we have an advantage now, right? Because if you're just putting too much pressure on the AI alone, with not that fantastic models, not that great data, it's not going to give you good results. But if you have the combination of very solid models in the background and then good ability of the AI to put it into a digestible piece of text, that's a really fantastic combination.
And that's now leading to something else that's worth pointing out. And that was ultimately the reason why I hit you up for the interview now. And I think I actually probably, when we were in the car 2 years ago, somewhere outside of New York, I told you, one day I want to do an interview with you about MarketReader and how investors of any size and any background can use it. You've now started to sign up large, or you're in discussions, I don't know what you can disclose, with large corporate clients who want an enterprise solution, who basically want to purchase your system for the entire company or for their clients as well. Your company has raised some venture capital. You've been fundraising recently. Can you tell us a bit more about where all of that is standing? Because that's a huge proof of concept, obviously.
Yeah. So I think like when you're building a new product, it's always a bit nerve-wracking to figure out, okay, who wants to buy it? So what we can see very clearly is that trading platforms, wealth management platforms that are trying to deliver good service can absolutely see that having MarketReader content on their platform, which we can deliver as a data feed, is something that's going to be a huge upgrade for them, right? They have kind of noisy, stale news feeds now. Now they can get like really to the point insights that will be a totally different quality. So the feedback we're getting definitely is that those trading platforms, those wealth management platforms that have active clients, they can see the value and we can do deals with them pretty quickly. So that's very exciting. We're at a very interesting point in time, right, where that revenue is being generated. In terms of looking a little bit further into the future, and the reason why we would like to raise capital and continue to grow aggressively is that we can build on this technology, right? The most obvious next phase of MarketReader would be that we essentially have a solution where not only do we have the ability to generate insights about individual assets, but we can also essentially tell a story about your portfolio, right? So if you have a portfolio with 50 instruments in it, we can use the technology to essentially give you a story about what's going on. Like we can go into the kind of science fiction world and we can say, okay, we're not that far from a situation where we can do a custom podcast for you. Sven, good morning, how are you doing? This is what's going on in your portfolio, right? Can you imagine, compared to having like generic content you listen to on CNBC or Bloomberg or whatever it is, to actually have a podcast about your portfolio, right? So we're not that far away from it. We've actually done the hard part. Now we just need to aggregate it into a space where we use the information about your portfolio. We can put it in an audio format if that's what clients want, right? We can do incredible things with this technology.
There are obviously a lot of people who claim that AI and software can do all of these things, but there are also the critics and the skeptics who say that, for example, AI, one of the common problems is when the AI software hallucinates. Mm-hmm. Is that something you've ensured is not going to happen in your system?
Yeah, so there's a technical concept that's called retrieval augmented generation. And that means, very simply, that the AI system only relies on very specific information that we give to it. It's not that we have like an AI engine that roams the world and tries to figure out what's going on. We have essentially like a hand-holding. Okay, we tell the AI, go and focus on this, right? And then it needs to do a simple task of generating text, certainly in terms of like putting it into a form where people can digest it. We give it certain tasks where it's going to make determinations, right? But it's on an extremely curated stream of content. And this is so crucial, right? If you put too much pressure on the AI to do too much, that's when the hallucinations come into play and could be a major problem.
Fascinating. I'm speechless. And I mean, I always worry about my own future now, having heard about AI or like MarketReader generated podcasts. You mentioned somewhere, and I think I have the quote actually somewhere in my notes, that yes, so with MarketReader you can bring data to life and tell a story. So, I mean, hand on your heart, do you think that I'm going to be out of work with undervaluedshares.com in the future, or?
No, I don't think so. But I think if people like you use a tool like MarketReader, you'll be more efficient in terms of generating content yourself, right? And then you use your own human judgment to add the spice to it. So I think we're going to have a situation where when you're communicating with your clients, your network, right, you can't do a bespoke story for each of your clients, each of the people in the network, but the AI, you know, abled solution can, right? So we can generate that bespoke. But if you want to offer some unique human perspective, some thoughts that have never been thought before, that's when the human brain and creativity comes into play, and is still extremely valuable.
And it's this monitoring that I was so interested on a personal level, because I have readers who are entirely content with me sending out once a month a summary what happened with some of the stocks that I've reported about in the past, and others would love to hear about everything in real time, which is a service that I obviously can't easily provide.
Yeah.
But with the right software put on top of that entire issue,
Yeah.
there's probably a bespoke service that I may be able to create in the future. Who knows?
Yeah.
And this is going to happen across asset classes. So I'm obviously focused on equities, but MarketReader will be eventually, once you've rolled out all the functionalities for...
Yeah, so like I said, okay, we effectively think like we could serve everybody who are interested in understanding what's going on in the market. Like we can discuss whether it's 500 million people or a billion, certainly many, right? And the same thing in terms of like how many assets do we have in the system, right? At the moment, we have, about 15,000 stocks that are trading in the US. It could be US names or ADRs. And then we have a bunch of macro assets, right? In a year or so, I would like to say, okay, we have now 100,000 equities in the system, and we have all macro assets. That's certainly the goal we have.
Very, very impressive. And if people want to learn about this and get an introduction to MarketReader, you now have a daily newsletter, the MarketReader Minutes or Minute.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. So, like newsletter, that sounds like something very, very old-fashioned, right? Like, why would we do a newsletter? But it's actually been a massive success, this MarketReader Minute concept, where we use all the insights that is generated within the system, and we just put it in an email that is an AI-generated email that tells you, okay, these are the stocks that are moving the most today. These are some of the macro instruments that are moving the most today, whether it's gold or the euro or whatever it is. And we also have at the top, like, the most important kind of like narratives that are driving all markets together, like beyond the asset level. And it's really, because an email is such a simple thing, it has allowed a lot of people to very quickly actually understand, oh wow, I've never seen an email like that actually was not humanly written.
I get it every day now, and I read it.
Yeah.
And having been testing MarketReader lately, I love how it also engages with me in such a way that I think about how can I contribute to the system to make it better. And in the back end of MarketReader, there is a section or a function where you can provide feedback or ask for particular features.
Yeah.
And do you get a lot of engagement from users, and does that lead to a lot of changes?
Yeah, so we definitely want to learn from our users, right? So like, I think one thing we have learned has a lot to do with the frequency at which we provide the information. When we created the MarketReader system originally, it was a super high frequency system, because in terms of getting the conclusions right, we need to do the analysis in very high frequency, because otherwise you're kind of commingling too many different things. So we need to do the analysis in high frequency, but it doesn't mean that we have to present the results in high frequency. And what we are finding is that the very high frequency information is like information overload for most people, right? So instead, we now have a couple of different frequencies. So we have a frequency that is the day so far. When you wake up, you want to know, okay, what did I miss when I was sleeping, right? That's the day so far frequency, and that updates during the day. But we also have a monthly concept where you say, okay, if there's a stock that you want to catch up on that you haven't followed day and night for the last couple of weeks, you say, okay, tell me what's been happening, most important stuff for the last month. So one thing we're definitely learning from our user is that different people have different time horizons, right? And we want to be able to provide the content on any time horizon they want.
Okay. I expect to hear a lot more about MarketReader, I think, in the months to come. And there have obviously been a lot of systems over the years that have claimed to do this, that, or the other in terms of providing automated information in a very digestible form. And I've got a huge respect for anyone who's ever tried it. And I've tried out some of these systems. I'm already signed up to MarketReader, so you don't need to convince me. But let us know, from your perspective, why go for MarketReader, not any of the other systems that's out there that does something similar or claims it can?
Well, I think I think we have embraced the complexity in the market. We understand that the market is complex. We've not tried to build a simple system, and that's the reason why we can have good overall results, and that's the key.
And I think the key is also you work incredibly hard, because whenever I send you a message, the reply comes straight back at any given time of the day or night. So I can see the entrepreneur in you. Is there anything else you think we should cover that we haven't mentioned yet?
Feedback is great. So if people want to get in touch with me, they can do that. We can go on marketreader.com and check out what we're doing there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is Jens Nordvig. So that's another way to be in touch with me. Or we can go through Sven, and we can definitely get introduced.
Your Twitter account is highly recommended because you're really worthwhile following. And thank you very much for that amazing conversation. It's been extremely insightful, and I fully expect to read about MarketReader in other publications very soon, because I think you're about to take off. So best of luck for that.
Thank you, and thanks for stopping by in New York City. I know you have a very busy schedule.
Always a pleasure.